Hello everyone, this is Mr. Thompson and we're going to do a little demo for you about the carbon cycle and a particular part of the carbon cycle, and this is our Dragon's Breath lab. And so we know from other things that we've been looking at with the notes and the videos that a good starting place is carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide can be taken up by plants in photosynthesis, and plants turn that carbon into food, into more plant material, into biomass. And then from there, the plants can be eaten by animals, and so that's how we get our carbon, is it goes into us and we use it as food and building materials, and then when we breathe out through cellular respiration, it goes back as carbon dioxide. Sometimes, though, that carbon dioxide goes into the ocean directly, and so it can either dissolve in as carbon dioxide, in which case it's kind of like the carbonation in your soda. It makes it kind of fizzy. Usually, though, it makes the acid carbonic acid, H2CO3. And from there, with it dissolved in the water, animals in the ocean and algae and other photosynthetic organisms can take in that carbon. If algae do it, they're going to do photosynthesis and then repeat that process like on land. If the animals take it in, they would take it in to make shells. Clams, oysters will use it to make their shells. Coral will use it to make their coral, to make the coral reefs that we have. And then that becomes calcium carbonate. So it's still carbon. And then what happens is when those animals, those oysters and coral and clams and mollusks, all those different mollusks die, the shells sink to the bottom, they get buried, and they become sedimentary rocks. And that's the part of the cycle that we're looking at today, is that sedimentary rock part. And this rock stores massive amounts of carbon for millions of years until it's either melted down into magma, in which case it can be released during the rock cycle, which we talked about 2 sections ago, or it can be turned into fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas, in which case it just sits there and it's either released by the carbon cycle or it's released by humans. So what we have today is our Dragon's Breath demonstration is showing the release of carbon dioxide from these carbonate sedimentary rocks. And then what happens with that extra carbon dioxide getting into the atmosphere when it dissolves in the water. All right, so for our demonstration today, I brought my helpful assistant, Phineas, over here, and he's going to help us go through some of this. So first, we started off, we've got some chalk, which we have already crushed up into a powder so it'll dissolve faster. We've also got vinegar that we're going to use as part of the reaction, because no matter how hard I tried, I could not get any hot lava. And we've got some vinegar. There's our vinegar right there. We'll do that in just a second. I've also got the bromothymol blue solution, and it's an indicator. We poured it into our cup. This is a little bit of indicator and a little bit of water.
And guys, so once you put dissolved stuff in here or blow bubbles in it or you blow something in it, turns to green then yellow, but then it doesn't go back farther, it just stays yellow, or it doesn't go back to blue. And unless you make it not an acid anymore, because the blue right here it's not acid, and the yellow and the green is acid. And we'll show you more and talk to you more about that when we actually do it.
Yep, we'll get to see the color changes and then talk about it then. We've also got our test tube that we're going to put our stuff in.
Test tube.
What else? Balloons. We have a balloon over here that we're going to use.
We got 2 balloons in case one goes wrong.
Okay, so we've got our materials. So now let's start building everything. First, what we're going to do is we're going to put our chalk into our balloon. So we have a balloon right here and
A homemade funnel.
a funnel.
And it was homemade by him.
I'm very handy when it comes to making do-it-yourself devices.
Yep.
So here we have our,
Homemade funnel in our balloon.
we're going to use it to put our chalk.
Crushed up chalk.
Can you hold that just like that? Hold the balloon on there. Okay, so we're going to put our chalk
Into the funnel.
in the funnel.
And it's gonna, and that, like you know already probably, it goes into the balloon.
All right, so we got our chalk in our balloon, and so now what we're going to do is pour the vinegar into the test tube. So can you hold the test tube, please, Lab Assistant Finney? And pour in the vinegar.
Very carefully.
Otherwise, we'll smell like salad dressing all day. We will be delicious. Okay, so now we've got our vinegar in our test tube.
Yep.
Right.
In the test tube.
All right, what do we got to do next?
Put the balloon on the test tube.
All right. So put the balloon on the test tube. Yep.
And 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1, and it's gonna fall in into where it dissolves the chalk into the vinegar.
Yep, there we go. So it's starting to dissolve.
And it's gonna, and once it's kind of done dissolving, it's gonna kind of start blowing up the balloon.
Unfortunately, this part takes a really, really long time. So we went ahead and we got another balloon. I got you.
All ready for y'all. We got another balloon all ready for y'all. All ready?
So we got a balloon
All ready?
right here
We got it all ready
for us. And remember,
And we're gonna show you how that can change color. Yeah.
okay.
So he's about to pour the vinegar and dissolved vinegar in the balloon into the cup so you can see how it changes from green to yellow from the balloon. You can see it's blowing bubbles. See, it's green, starting to get light, and see the balloon getting smaller, and boom, it's yellow. See, it's now yellow. So it went from, if you didn't see, it went from blue to green to yellow.
Okay, so remember what we had said. It went from
Blue to green to yellow.
right, and so what happens is at the beginning I talked about how the carbon dioxide dissolves into the water, turning into carbonic acid. And so the more acid you put into your liquid, the more it changes colors. And so we have a lot of acid in here. When it was green, we had a little bit of acid, and when it was blue, we had no acid. So this is more acidic. Green is less acidic, and blue is neutral, like water should be.
And like I said, to get it back to blue, you gotta make it back to not acid, which is nutrient.
Right, so if we put something in here to neutralize the acid, perhaps another base, we could turn it back to blue,
Yeah.
which we could do perhaps another time. So that was just one part with the carbonate rocks, all that carbon dioxide that gets trapped in the sedimentary rocks. If it gets released, it usually ends up in the atmosphere. And if it ends up in the atmosphere, a lot of things can happen. But there's other places that you can get, other sources that you can get carbon into the atmosphere. You can, anything that burns. If you're burning biomass, biofuels, anything like that, slash and burn, where you cut down forests, burn them so you can plant stuff there, releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Burning fossil fuels, coal and natural gas for power plants, oil for gasoline. And when you burn those, you're also releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Too much carbon in the atmosphere can be too much acid in the ocean, and that's kind of a bad thing because all the animals and plants have evolved over millions of years to have the oceans to be a certain pH, a certain acidity level, and certain water conditions. And so if we have too much acid, that would be like the vinegar dissolving our calcium carbonate. So we've already got a lot of it dissolving, and we're still making the bubbles, and we're releasing that carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We're also weakening those organisms that rely on those shells and those structures to survive. The clams and the oysters and the coral and things like that, their shells can actually kind of dissolve, and it reduces their risk of living. I'm sorry, my youngest is up from his nap. Hello, sir. You want to say hello?
Yes.
Come here. Look right there. Say hi to everybody.
Hey, babe.
You have a balloon? And a penguin? Hello, penguin. All right, go get your balloon. Go get your balloon and tell Mama. Say, Mama, I'm a YouTube star.
A YouTube star. My balloon is broken.
All right, so there is dragon's breath showing the release of carbon dioxide trapped from sedimentary rocks into the atmosphere. And one of the things that could happen if that is released into the atmosphere. There's other things that could happen too, and we will talk about those a lot later on. If you need to, go back and rewatch the video so you can answer the questions that you missed, or if you had any additional questions or anything like that. Thank you for watching. Make sure you answer your questions, and then you're done.
Awesome.
Awesome. Said you can return this back to its original color.
Oh, so you're going to use baking soda too?
Yeah, so we got a little bit of baking soda here since we said there's a little bit of acid in there. Let's see what happens.
Went back to green.
And then if we add a little bit more.
Add a little bit more. And blue again.
It's like super blue.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I think we put a little tiny bit too much, but well, there you go. It's blue again.
You can change it back. Is that
Yep.
cool or what?